Thank you. Good evening to you. Coming up on BBC London. As reports of drink spiking quadruple in 5 years, one victim tells us about his terrifying experience.
I felt very dizzy, very confused. I knew that I needed help, but I was unable to verbalise that.
Also ahead tonight. Junior doctors begin a new 3-day strike over pay. During the last walkout, more than 30,000 procedures and appointments were rescheduled in London. Plus, getting connected. 4 of the busiest Elizabeth Line stations get 4G mobile coverage.
And it's been called the capital's most Christmassy street. I'm here in southwest London meeting the community using festive cheer to raise thousands for charity.
Hello and welcome to the programme. First tonight, a warning to partygoers during the festive season to be vigilant after an increase in the number of people having their drinks spiked on a night out. Reported offences in London have quadrupled in the past 5 years, according to Met figures. It can be a terrifying experience for victims. One man who was drugged and sexually assaulted has been speaking to our reporter Nikki Ford, and you may find some of the details in her report upsetting.
Stephen was having a drink with a friend when somebody spiked it with the drug Rohypnol.
And within what felt like minutes, I felt very dizzy, very confused. I knew that I needed help, but I was unable to verbalise that to anybody. And I felt like I closed my eyes for a second, and the next thing I knew, I woke up and the sun was shining through the window.
It was then that he realised the horror of what had taken place.
When I got up to go and have a shower, I started to get undressed and it was clear that I'd been sexually assaulted.
Spiking is when someone puts drugs or alcohol into a person's drink without their knowledge or consent. Stephen now campaigns to raise awareness and says he hears of people being injected with needles and even vapes being used.
I think needles seems to be more popular now, but also vapes are being spiked. So, your vape's on the table, somebody's taking it or swapping it or asking you if you want to taste their vape.
Well, it can be difficult to tell if you've been spiked because some of the drugs mimic the impact that alcohol has. But if you notice that you lose the ability to communicate or you become confused or even become unconscious, and this all happens within a 15-minute time frame, then it could be likely that you've been spiked.
Data from the Metropolitan Police suggests the number of drink spiking related offences has quadrupled in the last 5 years. In 2018, there were 497 offences compared with nearly 1,800 so far this year. And as for charges, there were 15 5 years ago compared with 50 this year.
What matters is every time somebody thinks they may have been spiked, we take it incredibly seriously. We make sure if they report it to us, we give them both the medical attention they need. We also make sure we're able to capture the evidence. So if they have been the victim of an attack, we can make sure we identify and prosecute those offenders.
It is hard to measure the data as there's no specific offence for spiking. The government recently announced plans to update existing legislation to make it clearer that spiking is illegal, and they say they'll train door staff and issue venues with testing kits. But campaigners feel it should be an offence in its own right.
Just to know that there's a law that says this is a crime, this is wrong, something is going to be done about this, for the victims is very important.
London's Night Tsar Amy LeMay also warns against it being done as a prank.
25% of all victims of spiking are men, and they may be, just mates who think they're having a bit of a laugh or think it's funny to put something in someone else's drink. It's a crime.
With the Christmas party season in full swing, the message is clear. Be vigilant.
And Nikki joins me now. You mentioned there, the message is clear, be vigilant. What about any steps people can take or advice to help protect themselves from drink spiking?
Well, I think it's clear is from the victim I filmed with just how subtle the effects can be. He didn't see anyone do it and his drink didn't taste any different, and yet within minutes the effect had taken hold. So as you say, what can you do to protect yourself? Well, you can put a cap over your glass or a bottle stopper, and some bars do have these if you ask. And the old advice not to leave your drink unattended still holds, or indeed ask anyone else to look after it. But if you are out with someone, or you do happen to spot someone you think that has been a victim of spiking, then here is what you can do. First of all, stay with them really and try to keep them talking if you can, just to make sure that they're alert. And as I say, stay with them. The second thing you can do is if they start to deteriorate, then obviously call an ambulance, call 999 and ask for help. Thirdly, just try not to let them go home on their own. Make sure you stay with them, that's really important. And also try to stop them from drinking any more alcohol. Just make sure that they have something like tap water to drink. And finally, don't let them go off with a stranger. I know it sounds obvious, but just keep your eyes on them.
It does, but worth reiterating.
Yeah, it is. And you can see all of that advice on our social media pages too.
OK. Nikki, thanks very much. That's Nikki Ford there. Well, if anything we've just been talking about has affected you or anyone you know and needs some advice or support, the BBC has details of organisations which can help in confidence. Just search for BBC Action Line, or there's a free phone number, as you can see there, which has recorded information 24 hours a day. Plenty more ahead tonight, including improvements to mobile phone signal on the Elizabeth line, and
I'm watching London's newest pantomime.
Oh, no, you're not.
Oh, yes, I am.
Oh, no, you're not.
OK, as we've been hearing, junior doctors have begun another wave of strike action in their long-running dispute about pay. Talks between their union, the British Medical Association, and the government broke down earlier this month. Thousands of planned operations and appointments in the capital will have to be rescheduled as a result of the walkouts. Well, Guy Lynn has been looking at the data. Guy.
Riz, thank you very much indeed. So, since 7 a.m. this morning, junior doctors have been on the picket line. This was the scene at UCLH. It's the 26th day of action in this long-running pay dispute. So let's just remind you what they want. Well, on Tuesday, they rejected a 3% pay rise, which would have gone on top of an almost 9% rise that junior doctors received in April. Now, they said that what was offered would have been a pay cut with inflation. Now, the British Medical Association, or BMA, who represent the junior doctors, have been consistently saying that the figure needs to rise to 35% to make up for below-inflation pay rises.
So we've been in dispute for the government for 14 months now. The reason that we are in dispute is because our pay has been cut by 26% over the last 15 years. And we're seeing the effects of that in hospitals everywhere, up and down the country. My colleagues have left to go to Australia, New Zealand, Canada, where they're being valued and appropriately remunerated. That's leaving huge gaps in the NHS, and we're seeing waiting lists just climb and climb and climb.
Now, junior doctors last went on strike for 2 days in October, along with consultants who aren't striking this time. Now, in London, that saw over 33,000 inpatient and outpatient procedures and appointments being rescheduled. And in September, that figure was even higher, nearly 38,000. But of course, then and now, the concern is the impact it's all having, particularly on elderly people. Now, this time round, many non-urgent operations are being rescheduled across the capital's hospitals. And in terms of staffing, senior colleagues are replacing junior doctors on the front line. Now, the boss of NHS London says the timing in the middle of winter is particularly difficult.
Unfortunate timing. This strike is taking place in the 3 days leading up to the Christmas break. That's normally a time where we try and get people who are well enough home from hospital to clear the decks before the Christmas break, and so it provides quite a clinical and logistical challenge at this time, and so I'd rather it wasn't now.
So the industrial action will take place until Saturday morning. The Department of Health has told us that its door remains open and has urged the BMA to come back to the negotiating table. Meanwhile, some advice from the NHS for anyone with non-threatening issues over the next couple of days is to call 111 or your local GP or pharmacy. But anyone having to deal with a life-threatening emergency is being explicitly told to absolutely not hesitate to call 999. Riz.
OK, Guy, thanks for that. Guy Lynn there. Now, the Elizabeth line has been in the headlines for all the wrong reasons recently, with lots of delays and disruption out of Paddington. Well, today, perhaps some better news, as 4 Central Line stations got high-speed 4G mobile phone reception, and most of the Tube and Elizabeth line should get it sometime next year. Here's our transport correspondent, Tom Edwards.
It didn't take very long for passengers to take advantage of the new 4 and 5G signal this morning, as fast mobile phone reception arrived on parts of the Elizabeth line for the first time.
I think it's really good. It helps keep connected, especially when you're running late for things. I think overall on the Jubilee in certain areas and on the Elizabeth line, it will be great.
It is going to be helpful for the underground rail services for the people. It is going to be very useful because underground we normally don't get range. So now at least we will get some range and we can use some mobile.
And what about the old annoying phone call in a tunnel? I mean, how do you feel about that?
It's fine. I mean, to be honest, I feel like people don't really call that much anymore. It's more text.
The Elizabeth line 4G is now on the platforms of 4 Central Line stations, including here at Bond Street. The whole line should be finished by the spring. The Tube will take longer as there's less space for cabling, although parts of the Central, Jubilee and Northern are already covered.
Well, the Elizabeth line is the gift that keeps giving this Christmas. We're absolutely delighted now to have 5G at the stations. It just means people can plan their journeys and know where they want to visit, what they want to do when they get here, and it's just a nicer experience for everyone.
Testing the reception, the Mayor spoke to BBC Radio London from the platform.
Yeah, I think that most people listening will say it's another reason why Eddie and Sadiq become even more annoying than they are already, because we're just going to be on our phones annoying people with, I'm on my way home, can you pick me up from this station?
Well, the funny thing is, Eddie, my team yesterday were teasing me saying, oh my God, that means he'll be sending us stuff even when he's commuting. So there are downsides, but there are upsides as well, because on a serious note, you and I have talked in the past about security and safety, and actually we know sometimes you want to let your loved ones know your journey time, the progress you're making, when you'll be getting off, and that stuff's really important in relation to 21st century living.
The company that installed the technology pays TfL for access and then sells the reception to mobile phone companies. Most of the Tube and the Elizabeth line should get 4G by the end of next year. Tom Edwards, BBC London.
Taking you back now to 60 years ago this week, and one of the worst UK cruise ship disasters when a Greek-owned ocean liner sunk having set sail from Southampton. 128 people died when the ship caught fire in the Mediterranean. One of those who survived was John Morris, a 101-year-old Chelsea pensioner who's been reflecting on that day with our reporter Jim Weeble.
There was my wife, who was pregnant with a baby, and my 3-year-old son, my mother-in-law, and we got on the boat at Southampton. It was a Greek ship called the Laconia.
One night, you're in the Mediterranean, you're in the ballroom having a great time, I expect.
Yes.
Then what happens?
There was a fire alarm. A couple of hours later, they gave an abandoned ship, and I tried to put my whole family on one lifeboat. I got everybody on that lifeboat except my mother-in-law, and I had to put her on another lifeboat. There was no more lifeboats left, so I stayed on deck. They opened the bar, free drinks for everybody who stayed on board, and we were just having free drinks, just wondering what to do, because the boiler started exploding. By then I was a little bit umbriaco. I didn't have a life jacket anyway, and I was in my tuxedo and everything. I had the gangplank thrown overboard, and I just walked into the sea and swam away.
When you jumped in and you got hold of a piece of wood that was floating around, how long was you hanging on to that for?
I was in the water for 6 hours altogether before I was picked up. While I was hanging on to this piece of, I think it was a bit of deck cargo, I managed to pull somebody else on board with me who was sinking, and I was trying to get away from the boat because I didn't want it to, if it goes down, I didn't want to be sucked under.
Was you thinking this could be it?
We had to wait for the dawn to come, really, before we got picked up, and I was very, very weak by the time they tried to pull me up. And when I got on board, there was dozens of bodies on the decks already with tarpaulins over them. And then we were evacuated to England.
Well, all I went on the cruise for was to have a nice, quiet, restful holiday. And I'm afraid I didn't get that one.
We went to enjoy ourselves in the sunshine, as we thought. And instead of that, we had 6.5 hours in a lifeboat.
And when did you find out that your family was safe?
About 3 days after I got into England, and I was told my mother-in-law was safe as well, but she wasn't. I didn't know that the lifeboat carrying my mother-in-law, the davits were rusted, and they snapped when they lowered the boat and tipped them all in the sea. And my mother-in-law's body was never discovered. Her husband, unfortunately, blamed me, said I should have rescued her, and he wouldn't speak to me at all. I suppose it's my fault, put her on the wrong lifeboat, but I thought she was safe.
Afterwards, there was quite a big inquiry, wasn't there? The captain and several officers were heavily criticised.
We saw the captain leave the ship. He was one of the first to leave, with just one other crew, which I thought was terrible.
Sitting here now, when you look back at what happened, what does it make you think?
Well, I think somebody up there is looking after me. I felt I was being protected.
John Morris sharing his experience there. Now, how's this for a route into sport? This is 19-year-old Timmy O'Kay from Kingston, who was encouraged by his mum to take up American football just over a year ago, after she had a dream that he'd be good at it. And he is. Today, having graduated from the NFL's UK Academy, he's signed for a US college side, moving him a step closer to achieving his dream of turning pro, as Chris Legg reports.
Jefferson in motion. The Super Bowl, sport's grandest stage, a prize only 5 British-born players have ever won. With hopes of one day joining that list, 19-year-old Londoner Timmy O'Kay, who today signed with a top US college side.
So I'll be going to Northwestern University, Illinois, Chicago. Great place, great city, and I just can't wait to get started now. Be able to make plays on the big stage in the Big Ten, in front of so many fans, and it's going to be a privilege to represent London, the UK, and Nigeria.
Timmy has graduated from the NFL's UK Academy in Loughborough. He's only been playing American football for just over a year. He got into it when his religious mum Shola told him she'd had a dream after praying to discover a sport he would excel at.
I was shown a dream where he was actually playing American football. When I woke up, I was like, yes, okay, now we got the inspiration we need. So I said to him, Timmy, it's American football. He looked at me like I'd completely lost the plot.
I mean, my mum has dreams all the time, so I just thought, it's probably enough one of those dreams where it's just a random dream. I thought maybe she'd go to sport mixed up. I thought she was talking about our football.
Timmy was among 8 European-based players who today joined US College Division 1 teams at the NFL UK's National Signing Day in central London. There's still a long road ahead, but their presence in the US college system gives them a much better chance of being scouted by an NFL franchise.
This is a really big step, but how much hard work is still left? How likely do you think it is that you can actually make it all the way to the NFL?
At the end of the day, it's up to me. The only one stopping myself from getting there is myself. So I have to continue to push myself, work hard, stay focused and stay driven, and I'll get there.
From a mother's dream to an NFL dream that might just come true. Chris Legg, BBC London.
Good luck to him. And the moral of the story, always listen to your mum. Now, in the words of Gavin and Stacey, let's step into Christmas and head to what might be one of London's most festive streets. The light display on Lower Morden Lane in southwest London has been held for more than 25 years and is in aid of a very special cause. Well, we can join Matt Graveling, who's headed down there for us. Hi, Matt. Looking very festive yourself.
Hi there, Riz. Yes, I do try. Well, look, they say when you're working in news, you could do with some light relief every now and then, and what better place to come for some lights than here, Lower Morden Lane. These people turn out every single year, put up fantastic displays, and what's more, they're doing it for charity. We're going to find out and meet one of the residents in a moment. But first, let's take a little walk down here and just show you some of the lights that people have been taking pictures of and scanning the QR codes to make donations to charity, which they've been doing for 25 years now, raising £250,000 in the process, and always for the same charity. And Kate is from that charity, St Raphael's, less than a mile away. Yeah. How important is the money raised here for you guys?
Well, it costs £6.5 million a year to run the hospice, and we have to raise £4 million of that. So this is a great contribution to what we do, and it's great at Christmas. It's a great atmosphere, and it's lovely for the residents to know to be involved with what we're doing.
Of course, Christmas is a time to be together. When people are in hospice, then that's not always possible. But what's it like within those four walls at Christmas time?
Well, we try to make sure that everyone celebrates Christmas, and all the patients' families come in, and we do a lot of hospice at home. So most of our patients are at home, and we give them Christmas hampers and that kind of thing. And our patients that need more support, we raise money for them to help them so that they can celebrate Christmas at home.
Thank you very much, Kate. Right, I'm going to take you next door to number 153 to meet a man called David, who has taken over the baton really from a lady called Sylvia, who did this for many, many years and continues to raise money. This is his house, absolutely fantastic. And stood here in front of a sleigh is David himself. David, what does it mean to you as a resident, seeing so many thousands of people, literally to the left of our camera right now, coming to see all these and donate?
Yeah, it happens every year, and that's why we do it. It's great fun. Absolutely. It's Christmas, and we put on a bit of a show, and people come to look at it.
And the big day is always Christmas Eve, which falls on a Sunday.
Yeah.
For people who haven't ever come down here, what's the message?
Well, it will be very busy on Christmas Eve. There will be lots of people here, but get out the house and come and talk to people. Everyone talks to each other, they have great time, and just look at the lights and enjoy.
Thank you very much. I've got to say, I'm jealous of that hat. Puts mine to shame. But there you go, £250,000 has now been raised for these charities. So if you haven't ever come down here, come down, put your hand in your pocket, donate cash or even on the QR code, raise a little bit of money for the hospice and this community at Christmas. Riz.
Matt, thanks very much. That really is quite something. Thank you. And it wouldn't be Christmas in London, would it, without Panto season? And this year, an extra special one for a theatre in Catford. The Broadway is holding its first Panto in 3 years after the venue was closed for extensive refurbishment in 2019. Layla Hayes has been behind the scenes, oh yes she has, to meet the cast as they prepare for today's performance.
Let's head down to Lowish Farm!
It isn't Christmas without a Christmas panto. And at the Broadway Theatre in Catford, this is the first time they've staged a pantomime in 4 years. A modern take on Jack and the Beanstalk, and it's going down a storm. Have you been to pantos before?
No, it's my first one.
And what do you think?
I think it's amazing. It's really nice.
And what about you?
Yeah, we're really glad we came. This is a really accessible, affordable way to kind of introduce kids to performance in the theatre, and they're all having a lovely time.
You see, that was my grandfather many years ago.
Yo, just cut the ting, man.
I now declare the celebration open!
Just a few years ago, the future looked very uncertain for this theatre. But now, after a £7 million refurbishment, it's back with a bang.
First panto since refurb. It's great. It's an honour to be asked to do it as well. I mean, Joy Productions have been great, taking me on and the rest of the cast as well. It's just been a really exciting time, yeah.
No, let me park this in a responsible adult fashion.
The panto dame is always popular, but a local actor has the starring role.
I'm born and bred in Brockley, about 15 minutes that way. And this was actually the first theatre I ever did anything on, you know. When I was growing up at my local dance school, this was the place we did our show every summer. So a little 8-year-old me went on the stage for the first time here, you know.
The theatre has been in Catford since 1932, and it's hoped that the panto will bring in new audiences.
We want the community to know that this is for them and about them. We have a £1 ticket scheme for people who can't even afford the 8,500 plus £10 tickets that we've got on sale, because everybody should be able to come and see a panto.
Welcome to our home, New Wish Farm.
Perfect family entertainment. Jack and the Beanstalk is on until the end of the year. Layla Hayes, BBC London.
OK, I will spare you all the panto jokes, but definitely bring you a check on the weather with Sarah. Hello there.
Hi, Riz. Well, not bad weather for heading to the panto, because when it's a bit grey and drizzly outside, you could just do with a bit of pantomime brightness to jazz things up a bit, because we have had a lot of cloud in the sky out there today for most of us. Bit of brightness around at times, but over the next 24 hours or so, I think the focus is going to be on the strength of the wind. We've got a really blustery spell of weather through the day tomorrow. It's going to be mild, and there will be a few showers around as well. But if we take a look at the radar picture, then there were just a few splashes of rain earlier in the day. They cleared away towards the east, and then over the past few hours, most of the wet weather has been across northern and western parts of the UK, and that's mainly where it's going to be staying for the rest of this evening and tonight. But what we've got a lot of clouds sitting across us, so that blanket of cloud, perhaps the odd splash of drizzle. The wind's coming in from the west, so that's from a mild direction. We're not going to see any frost first thing tomorrow. Through the early hours of Thursday, I think temperatures will remain between around about 8 to 10 degrees for most of us. Perhaps some glimpses of blue sky, but generally a lot of grey cloud around through the day tomorrow. That will bring the odd spot of light rain, I think, not too much in the way of wet weather, but it really will be a blustery feeling day. During the afternoon, there'll be a bit more sunshine working through, so brightening up, but still really windy, gusts about 40 miles per hour, perhaps around some hills, for instance. Temperatures on the mild side up to about 13 degrees or so. And then as we move through into Friday, we've got this weather front still with us, bringing more cloud, more outbreaks of rain. It will be another blustery day, but won't be as windy on Friday compared to Thursday. And we'll see highs around about 11 or 12 degrees, still on the mild side for the time of year. And then as we head towards the all-important festive weekend, well, we've got high pressure towards the southwest. A couple of weather fronts move their way through. So, yes, it's looking mild, it's looking unsettled, and I think a little bit colder from Boxing Day. Riz.
OK, Sarah, thank you. And that's it. More stories on our website. Everything from proposals for a garden in Regent's Park in memory of the late Queen to the 8-year-old London chess prodigy who's just won a European title. I'm back with you on Christmas Eve, but before then, come join me on Friday on BBC Radio London from 7 a.m. on The Breakfast Show. From all the team here, have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.